one project won't be done until the year 2038. How many generations of Canadians would have to survive long enough for the Prime Minister to realize any of the promises that he makes?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
On the carbon tax, because he knows that Canadians know they can't afford the cost of food, as he intends to continue raising taxes. And so instead, he tries to distract with media buyouts and by censoring views with which he disagrees. So will he have the courage to actually defend his carbon tax as 2 million people line up in bread lines like those we haven't seen since the Great Depression? And will he support our common sense bill to axe the tax on the farmers that feed us?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians right across the country, including and especially our hardworking farm families, are seeing the impact of climate change increasingly every single year. It has become glaringly obvious to everyone, except for certain MAGA conservatives, that the fight against climate change is a fight for the future of our economy. You cannot separate fighting climate change from growing good jobs and a strong economy into the future, and yet that is exactly what the Conservatives continue to say. We put a price on pollution, we're putting more money back in Canadians' pockets, and we're creating great jobs for the long term.
Here, here.
Wow.
Did he just say that? You can't say that.
Allegedly, you can.
Why isn't Fergus doing anything? Oh, I know why Fergus isn't doing anything, because Fergus is on that team.
Yeah. Again, here this is part of the new PR, everybody, is to try to shame or link Pierre to what he considers a toxic political movement down south.
But you know, Trudeau's the one always going after Pierre for bringing American politics up to Canada, blah, 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 blah. What did he just say?
Well, he just said that. And of the two of them, who's the one that brought a former presidential candidate from the United States up to their convention? They brought Hillary Clinton up. So, you know, for someone who's talking about Pierre bringing up American politics, Pierre doesn't bring that up at all. He doesn't reference American politics at all. Only Trudeau's doing that.
Yeah, Trudeau projects so hard he should go get a job at IMAX.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
The Prime Minister loves to blame others for the fact that he's doubled housing costs in 8 years. He's not worth the price of rent. But let me quote the organization Realtor.com in the United States. October 23rd marks the 6th month in a row of year-over-year rent declines. Rental.ca in Canada says, and I quote, for the 6th month in a row, asking rents in Canada hit a new high. Why, after 8 years of this Prime Minister, is rent going down in the States and up in Canada?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since 2015, we have been investing in housing in this country to make up for the 10 years of lost time when that member as Minister of Housing and a previous government got out of the business of building and supporting housing across this country. So we've done an awful lot, and we recognize there's more to do, which is why part of our fall economic statement was about investing even more in creating homes and unlocking the potential of this country. As for the difference between Canada and the United States, well, one of the differences is our population is growing much faster than the population growth in the United States. But I'm certain the Leader of the Opposition wasn't about to suggest he was anti-immigration, because we all know immigration creates jobs and prosperity, and that's what we're all for.
Like,
This guy, man.
it's so funny. We've been investing since 2015. What? We've been investing since 2015 and accomplished double the housing costs. Double the rent. Like, It's insane.
Because
You haven't been doing anything.
it's because there's not enough supply to meet the demand.
Right.
And again, there's nothing wrong with immigration, but if you're going to have numbers like that, you need to make sure that you have services and homes for that quantity of people that you're bringing into the country. If you don't, that's just irresponsibility as a government. What do you expect these people to, leave their lives in their home country and come to Canada and have nowhere to live? How is that fair to them?
Well, and remember how we said before, there's a reason why Pierre hasn't spoken against immigration. This is why. The Liberals are waiting for him to say it, because they will use this as a sledgehammer to try to sway the public opinion of the immigration demographic.
Well, and you've all seen how the Liberals and Trudeau just twist and twist and twist the truth. I mean, he's doing it right now. Of course, if Pierre says anything about immigration, they're going to take that and run with it, and who knows what they'll say.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
It's the Prime Minister who brought up immigration. I was about to point out that in Canada, according to his housing agency, home construction is down 32% year over year. And in the United States, it's up 5%. It is true the Prime Minister has much more expensive federal government programs to build more government bureaucracy and less homes. Will he adopt our common sense plan to build homes, not just bureaucracy?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Right there is what we expected Pierre to do, was not address the immigration side or the demand side of the housing crisis, but address the supply side, the actual houses themselves. And that's probably what you're going to see going forward, again, because the Liberals are going to twist anything that he says about immigration and make it sound like a negative.
Mr. Speaker, we all know the mistrust and the distaste the Leader of the Opposition has for expert analysis and expert advice. That's particularly because the experts have roundly panned his approach on housing as not going to be able to create the housing that Canada needs. What are we doing? For example, concretely, we've talked about 9,000 housing units in Hamilton, 7,000 housing units in London, 44,000 housing units in Vaughan, 9,000 housing units in Halifax, and more to be created over the next few years. These are investments we're making that are delivering for Canadians right across the country, while he continues to propose cuts and austerity instead of the investments that Canadians need.
L'honorable chef de l'opposition.
Gives home building numbers. He's talking about promises that have not been realized. For example, he promised in 2015, 8 years ago, that he would sell federal lands to build homes. Now, today, Radio-Canada reports that it takes 23 years for the government to dispose of lands and turn it into new homes. In fact, one project won't be done until the year 2038. How many generations of Canadians would have to survive long enough for the Prime Minister to realize any of the promises that he makes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
I like how Melissa, after that last question, just looks over at Trudeau and says, how are you going to answer this one?
I love Melissa. She's always so smartly dressed, too. She looks awesome.
Yeah. But this is it. This is it. You make all of these promises, and Trudeau's trying to take credit for developments that are already in the pipeline. That's the ridiculous thing.
But that haven't been built yet.
No, they haven't been built yet. They're in the permit stage.
Yeah, that would be like me going to the store and buying, eggs and flour and milk and sugar and going, oh, look at this amazing cake that I'm going to make.
Yeah, and then, Fox doesn't make it for 6 months. And then the eggs go bad, and then nothing gets done, and then you forget that there was even a cake supposed to be in the oven. So, this is the ridiculous thing about this government. They travel around, they give cities a bunch of money, and then they take credit for for what they're already doing, but the cities don't care. They got millions of dollars.
Mr. Speaker, that underscores the importance of being able to work constructively with municipalities to build those housings. And those numbers from the City of Ottawa are something that we're concerned with and are going to be working to make sure that they accelerate the construction of housing on federal lands. We are there for investing in more housing. We are there to release federal lands for the construction of housing. But instead of doing what the Leader of the Opposition says and picking fights with the municipalities, we will work with them to ensure that they are building faster. That's what our Housing Accelerator is all about, unlocking hundreds of thousands of new homes over the coming years.
How does giving municipalities hundreds of millions of dollars increase speed of builds?
It doesn't. You need to get them to cut the red tape.
Right.
How many municipalities in Ontario have we seen that they say, oh, don't expand the urban boundary? If somebody who owns a small hobby farm wants to sell off the land or section it off and sell part of the land and create housing, why is the government stopping it? Why are the municipalities stopping it?
Right, because
we need houses.
Because hobby farms don't contribute to the grocery stores.
No.
Like some people use it to farm lavender. Some people use it to farm whatever they want. And they keep it. It's a hobby farm. So, like, this is what people don't seem to understand, and the government doesn't seem to understand. And then he admits, oh, yeah, well, we know there's problems, but... okay, so where's your accelerator then? You just killed yourself there because you literally just said, well, we've been, putting the housing accelerator in and, we're getting all these results. And then Pierre slaps that in your face, and then you're like, oh, well, yeah, we need to talk to the City of Ottawa about that. Like, no, you can't have it both ways.
What he's actually done is unlock hundreds of new photo ops at the expense of Canadian taxpayers. So, for example, he's now given $15 billion to the renamed and recycled construction loan program. This is a program that has built less than half of its targeted promises, and the new money that he says will build homes will arrive in 2025. The new homes in 2028. Wow. Mr. Speaker, how many times would this Prime Minister have to be re-elected on his promises for housing for a new home to actually get built?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the irony is the Leader of the Opposition is attacking us for making announcements on thousands upon thousands of new units built across the country when he doesn't make any announcements at all because he has no plan. He is not sharing a plan to build more homes. He's not sharing a plan to invest in the economy. He is not sharing his approach on how to create more opportunities for Canadians while fighting climate change, while responding to the climate crisis. He just stands there and makes personal attacks and sneers at everything and says it's all broken instead of doing the hard work, rolling up our sleeves and delivering a real plan for the future of Canada.
Because Pierre's party is not in government right now.
Well, in personal attacks, who's the one that called him a MAGA guy earlier? Like, dude. The hypocrisy is just on full display today, folks.
Well, and the stupid thing, Trudeau's like, oh, he doesn't tell anybody about what he's going to do. Yeah, because you jerks are going to steal it all.
Right, and why would he? Everything that he's proposed, you voted against. What, you think that he's actually going to share something and that you're going to say, oh, that's a good idea, let's take that?
Well, how much stuff that Pierre has been saying made it into that fall economic statement because the Liberals literally stole his ideas. Just off the top of my head, and on the housing topic, the Liberals said that they're going to start selling off government property. Was that not a Conservative idea?
Yep.
And I mean, I'm not going, oh, well, they're not allowed to use it, because the government should work together. But when you're being this adversarial and then stealing the opposition's ideas and claiming them as your own, come on.
Well, and you're talking about a prime minister that has been calling millions of Canadians names for the last 8 years. Personal attacks.
And just trying to divide us from our family, from our friends, from our neighbors.
And then he turns around and says Pierre's doing that and making people angry. No, people are angry because of you, Trudeau. Every time you open your mouth, you make people furious.